SEO is very easy when you're competing against no one.
Purely word of mouth, just referral.
There's literally zero thought put into it. It was
Really?
just,
Okay.
it was just very.
So I'm overestimating you, basically. Okay.
For me, overheads were the biggest advantage.
I don't remember my invite, but thank you.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I
did invite you out, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure you did. But anyway, is that when you realised restaurants are not for you?
Yeah.
Okay, so at one stage you thought you were going to sell socks?
We made them.
Oh, you did?
We made them.
You don't now?
No, we don't now. But again, that's that refinement back to...
Luke is such an amazing ambassador. They used to go out wearing the pink socks for us.
I would have loved a pair, actually.
I said you...
Yeah, sometimes in the office we're like, come on then.
He doesn't realise if he goes away for 5 months, he's coming back to no business.
Yeah.
He's like, Marcus, what are all these expenses?
Yeah.
Very powerful.
He's speaking about it now, isn't he?
Welcome.
Okay, are we good? Hello, everyone, and welcome to Babylonia Media and our very first podcast series, The Entrepreneur's Experience. When they're starting off on their journey, entrepreneurs love being surrounded by other creative and energetic people working in flexible workspaces. So it's very appropriate that this series is sponsored by SpaceMade. SpaceMade transforms buildings to create enjoyable and immersive working spaces for entrepreneurs and remote workers alike. We in Babylonia have a space at one of the locations and have found it a great environment to work in. SpaceMade has accessible workspaces throughout the UK. Check them out at www.spacemade.co. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show. Okay, Entrepreneurs Experience, episode 4. Marcus and Luke, thanks for being here. Just a quick overview about you guys very quickly. You joined forces in 2008, is that right? 9? And when you were 17, you started Tavistock Tutors, which is obviously a tutoring company. Online, you got up to 1,000 tutors, is that correct?
I think we had more at the time we sold it.
Okay.
Yeah.
no need to show off, but okay, fine. Sold that recently, about 7 months ago, then started Central23. No, you didn't start, you started that 3 years ago, is that right?
4 years ago now.
And that's 4 years ago. And that is a stationery publishing type company, so novelty items, that sort of thing. Okay, great.
You've done your research.
Get ready. There's a lot that's going to happen here. So the first question or sort of thing I was thinking about, which I want to hear more about, is when we do our research, we obviously check sort of previous careers and that sort of thing, whereas you didn't really have one. You guys were so young. I'm assuming you didn't really do any business at all before that. But did you have any entrepreneurial inclinations? Did you do anything at all before you started?
Side hustles.
Yeah, side hustles, exactly.
Side hustles, yeah.
So tell me.
Go on, do you want to share your side hustle?
What didn't we do?
What didn't you do?
I cleaned cars.
Okay. Used
to like rope in friends to help with that a bit. Mainly so I didn't have to do any of the cleaning.
Okay.
That's smart business right there.
That is smart business. That's a leader.
Sold sweets at school. I used to get my cousin from the US to send me those incredibly sour warheads and sell those. There was a brand called Rusty Nil, which was kind of a cheaper version of Ed Hardy. To sell Rusty Nil t-shirts. It had the Rolling Stones one with the tongue hanging out.
I used to have Ed Hardy t-shirts.
Sold a bit of Ed Hardy as well.
Did you sell me a Rusty Nail t-shirt? Do you remember?
Yeah, I hope so. If not directly, I hope indirectly.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Sorry, anyway, carry on. So you did that. Anything else?
So it was very scrappy stuff.
Okay. Yeah, same here. Yeah. It's a sweet shop at school.
But you definitely doing a bit of business even previous to Tavistock before you were 17. It
wasn't really business.
It sounds like it was a
bit
of business.
Finding cash from doing different things.
Okay.
We weren't allowed to sell sweets at school, so I cut a hole in my blazer jacket so the chocolates went through to the inside lining.
Okay, that is hustle.
That's mafiosa style.
That's mafiosa style. On the point of age, I was thinking about this. So you started at 17. When did you first employ someone?
After university, so there was a long period between.
So you were young, but you weren't super young when you first employed people.
Like 22.
Yeah. Was it 22?
So that is very young. That is
very
very young. Did you? I always wonder this with young entrepreneurs in particular. Did you have a bit of imposter syndrome employing people, especially? I assume some of them were older than you. Was that a weird one? Or do you remember that much, or was it quite easy?
The actual employment process, I think, was kind of tough. It was a hard decision to make. Obviously, it seems like nothing now, but at the time it was kind of like, okay, do we need someone? Why are we hiring them? And we went through that process to try and figure out, what is this person going to do? How are we going to control them? We're 22 years old. We were 22, right?
It's around there.
Around there. So it was a little bit scary, but ultimately we knew we needed to do it to grow. So we jumped in.
And what was your first employee? What was the role?
She was a client relationship manager. So she answered the phone and placed tutors with students.
Okay.
And I actually found it, you're right, the recruitment process, I guess, was, kind of unusual for us because we'd never interviewed people for a full-time job. But
yeah, well, you obviously interviewed the tutors, but that's all sort of like a separate entity.
Yeah, and then also when we went from kind of working in a small room, just off one desk, the two of us, to having somebody else in the room with us. So that alone was kind of initially kind of a funny thought. But once she joined, it was actually very comfortable.
Yeah, it was super. We employed her off Gumtree as well, which is it's a unique method of employment.
Why do you say that?
Just because I don't know, most people use job boards, but we went on Gumtree.
You just went on Gumtree. Find the quality candidates.
Exactly.
Watch out there.
Sorry.
It's like an earthquake.
What was I going to ask you next with regards to employment factors? So, speaking of your side hustles, you came across or decided to do Tavistock because I think you were trying to recruit for someone else or another tutoring company. Is that correct?
Yeah. So a tutor had come in to help my older brother, and I overheard him speaking to my mother saying that he had loads of tutors because he recently graduated from Oxbridge, but he wanted more students. And I then kind of piped in and said, yeah, well, I'll find you the students, but kind of what are you going to pay me? Mm-hmm. And then I started getting a commission for it.
Okay, and then off the back of that, why go to Luke?
So, I mean, separately to that, I had a desire anyway to start something myself. That was kind of a little bit more substantial and real than kind of, I guess, the side hustles. But it was an easier decision when I wasn't getting paid for all the students I'd introduced. Mm-hmm. So once I felt that I was kind of cheated out of some of the commission that was owed to me, it was a no-brainer. And Luke was a good friend. We lived on the same road, so yeah.
Went to the gym together.
Didn't gym at all, though.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can imagine. So early stages.
I love that you pointed at Luke.
Yeah, I just looked at him and I was like, because when you said gym, he sort of smiled and went, yeah. Talk to us about early Tavistock sort of journey. How did it start? What was the first, say, 6 months process? What were the real tough parts of getting it up and running, so to speak?
The very early stages, the first things we did together was literally go out and bought a phone from Carphone Warehouse on St. Joseph High Street. Mm-hmm. It was the cheapest phone in the store, and it was a pink flip phone. And we started it with pretty much no money, and it was all about building a database. But I stopped doing it. I didn't even remember how long after it was. Probably like
a few weeks.
Literally a few weeks.
Maybe.
A few weeks, a month, something like that. And because Mark's dropped out of school. I don't know if you saw that in your research.
I did.
You did? Okay.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
And so Mark is definitely better positioned to answer that.
Okay, so what? And then you were still at
I was still at school,
and you were day to day doing it no matter what.
Yeah, so I mean, at the very early stages, I don't know if it was a few weeks, but even when you stopped, I think it was a couple months. I was still in school. Mm-hmm. It was nice to have that where like it wasn't kind of my full responsibility. So it was kind of something I was doing part time, and that meant that we could allow it to kind of organically grow. Once I went on it full time, it was just, I mean, very much the same thing Luke and I were doing, just more of it. So, mass recruitment, trying to find as many tutors as possible. It was very much led by what students were looking for. So if a student called another agency and said, hi, I need a tutor that could help with biochemical engineering, the agency would say, sorry, we don't help with biochemical engineering, or we don't do undergraduate tutors.
And was that the point really when you first started offering the more unusual subjects?
I think initially it was just a point of trying to make money, but then when the 20th call was someone who wanted that more unusual subject, we were just keen to make money.
But in the early days, did you do that a lot more and offer quite unusual educational services, so to speak?
We did it until like 3 years before we sold it.
Oh, really? Okay, so you really mainstreamed that as you grow naturally?
It stayed that way. We would just try and find... I mean, it got to a stage where if someone was going to call and ask for something ridiculous, although do have a great story of someone calling and asking for a Tetris coach. And
I read that you also got asked for a FIFA coach.
we didn't actually get asked. As a joke, we put up FIFA coaching on our website. And we had
Okay.
about 3 requests, and we did send a friend around to go and teach FIFA
really?
at someone's house,
Okay,
which is
fine.
kind of crazy.
What we found out quite early on was, so after we started to make a little bit of money, we then invested in the website. And to compete for kind of mainstream subjects, so take mathematics at GCSE level, it was very hard to have kind of a top ranked position on Google. But then when someone called up and said, hey, I'm looking for a real estate tutor, we were like, okay, fantastic. Went out, sourced a real estate tutor. And once we had that tutor, we then put them on our website and created a real estate kind of, subject page on our website. And then all these requests started coming in for real estate. We're like, it can't be that busy of a subject, that we're getting more requests for real estate than we are for physics A level. But it was just because on Google, we were the top ranked website for real estate tutors because nobody else was doing it.
So this was
SEO is very easy when you're competing against no one.
okay, I get that.
So then from there, we then thought, how can we expand out of these kind of more unusual niche subjects?
Yeah.
So we just started creating loads of pages. We'd go onto kind of university websites and had a look at what masters they have, and then create subjects pages specifically around those subjects.
Okay,
and then
so,
the requests
so
started to
you
come
were
in.
actually hunting students for really unusual subjects, as in university students to teach.
Yeah, I think it was more almost led by what we could rank for on Google.
Okay, so it was completely that, just the least amount of competition, I guess, is the point there.
And no, but also we got random requests from people, and we'd be like, "Oh,
So it did
that's
actually
kinda
fit
cool.
with the demand. You
Yeah,
didn't create a demand. It actually-
Sometimes I think we did a bit of both, but yeah, there were instances where someone would call us and ask something really random. We were like, "Wow, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
Let's put it online."
Speaking of marketing, it was very interesting finding out about all the little ideas you had. And I actually think, when I think about Central23 in particular, it seems like that quirky element that you have, or you did in the marketing aspect with Tavistock, is sort of showing in the Central23 aspect of your novelty cars and stuff like that. What were could you sort of just tell the audience the 3 or 4 notable marketing or PR stunts that you did, that especially in the early days, that you felt really, really put you amongst it and gained a lot of attraction?
I don't think any of the stunts we did gained us attraction.
Really?
I think
the bike.
Yeah.
I would say the bike, or perhaps.
We wrapped a car.
Depends in a way, but I guess that's easy.
A lot of what we did. It wasn't amplified to a level of an international business. We were based in London, so
I get that, but the concept of creating that word of mouth, which is so important, you definitely did that.
Yeah. So the bike was good. Wrapped a car, left it near schools.
They were great headlines as well when we got
great
articles.
headlines.
Yeah.
Very good.
And the bike, getting articles in kind of mainstream media off the back of the bike made it kind of all the much more worthwhile.
Did you do all of this in the first year? These sort of moves of
the
pens, the car.
Did it across pretty much the whole time of the game. Yeah.
Because first, say, for 6 months again, was it purely word of mouth, just referral, and then once you go, oh, this is a bit of a business here, that's when you start to market? Was that the general idea?
It was literally zero thought put into it. It
Really?
was just
Okay.
It was just very.
So I'm overestimating you. Okay, fine.
It was very off the cuff.
Yeah.
So the bike was one of the early things we did.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been in the first 6 months. And if you look at the picture of the bike, you can see it has no brakes. The seats all scuffed up. The bike was completely damaged. I pulled it out of a skip, took it around to a friend's house who was always very good with his hands. He was making mini bicycle motorbikes when we were kids. So I literally saw it, and because he lived around the corner from me and we grew up and we were very good friends, I just literally somewhat wheeled it round to him and said, "Can you fix this up?" And bang a sign in the middle for my business. He was like, "Yeah, of course." So we went down to home base, bought a bunch of things, and then he did that for me.
Okay.
I had to help by watching, and maybe holding his tools.
Yeah, just directing.
And then I parked it outside schools, but again, no brakes. So I was kind of cycling at
So you risked your life for your business.
Risked my life every single
That's
time.
an entrepreneur, guys. That's an entrepreneur.
We had a lot of fun doing it as well.
Yeah.
We spray painted the streets with chalk spray paint. People still got pissed off at us, but it did
I
wash
can
away.
imagine. Yeah.
We went out at 3 a.m. to do it,
And we still got in trouble. We also we handed pens outside schools, and in most instances, people came and just got really pissed pissed off at us for standing too close to the school.
Attracted attention, right?
Well, the wrong kind of attention.
Yeah.
The police in some
No press is bad
instances.
press. Guys. Really?
No, but we had a headmaster come out and be like, what are you doing?
That would have been a great story.
That would have been a great story.
Well, so headmaster of school came out and
Actually, wasn't a headmaster. It was
really
the
didn't like it.
chaplain who came out of the school and was like, you can't be this close to the school. And we were young at the time, so it was a bit like, we're on a pavement. What do you mean we can't be here? And he was like,
I think if we were this age, it would have been a bit creepy.
A bit more scared.
Yeah,
we would have looked a bit more creepy, handing pens out to kids.
Yeah.
So, I was thinking
the age gap was relatively close when we were 20,
so you look relatable,
22,
so to speak.
So we looked relatable.
Yeah. Did you do you think your age was an advantage in the sense of obviously the market, number one, and number two, there was no fear with what you're doing in a business sense? Do you think that was quite an advantage? Looking back now, because obviously now when you do business, you're probably much more structured, that sort of thing. Was it an advantage? Did it feel like an advantage looking back on it?
For me, overheads were the biggest advantage. Like starting a business when you have no overheads.
Okay, so personal overheads, you had no real cost, living at home, that sort of thing.
You come out of university, in very few instances can you start a business making a little money and sustain the, 2-year run rate until you're earning enough money to live.
If you were
married or
21,
married and kids, it makes it even harder. So that was definitely a big benefit and plus to starting young.
And you'd agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, but I also think the no fear aspect, like you said, like when you just did all these stunts, there was absolutely nothing.
I kind of
feel the same. I was going to say, I kind of feel the same way.
Yeah,
now.
You do that all over again, or?
Yeah, I think we'll just do it on a bigger scale now.
Okay, very interesting. Talk to us a little bit about Central23. Why Central23? And I don't mean so much the name, but why have you gone and done that now? I would assume to some extent it's obviously fitting with the creative edge, but what's the overall reason for starting it?
It's probably less about the creative edge initially.
That's an interesting parallel, though. I think other
it
people
is.
mentioned that.
No,
there definitely is.
No,
We've always very.
Well, that's the point. What I was saying to you about the marketing aspects. You clearly do stuff quirky in it, and it shows. And obviously, knowing you guys, it shows in the cards that you're making and things like that.
I think like back one more step was that we were looking for bigger business opportunities, and we tried a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
we
wanted something more scalable.
Yeah. And do you want to rattle them off?
Well, all the ideas.
Restaurant.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, we ran this market stall selling chicken Milanese, so basically chicken schnitzel.
Yeah.
And Luke and I would wake up at 4 or 5 a.m. We'd be literally sitting there cutting, banging out chicken breast, breading it, and then we would go down to the kind of market pitch that we had.
Wait, which market did you do it?
We did a few. We did Camden. We did Paddington Street. I think.
I don't remember my invite, but thank you.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I
did invite you out. I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure you did, but anyway, it's fine.
When we arrived, I remember one time there was someone selling pulled chicken. Luke and I were there for an hour and a half trying to pitch our tent. This woman rolls up and she just literally with one finger lifts her whole tent up and makes it in literally instantly.
Is that when you realised restaurants are not
for you? That was one. That's when we realised
pitching stools isn't for us.
Okay.
The main reason we didn't actually end up pursuing that was there was this massive bubble going on in this kind of fast casual dining scene in London, and people were paying extortionate premiums to get into property and rent, and the rates were very high. And when you combined everything, it was just absolutely absurd. People were going to run a successful business for 4 or 5 years to pay off a premium.
Yeah.
And interestingly, now when we speak to the agents,
exactly.
or even actually pre-COVID, so before coronavirus even was a known entity, then we were speaking to kind of agents that we had met at the time. They were showing us, or they told us about locations that we had seen that had £1 million premium that were down to zero.
Just insane, yeah.
Crazy.
So it had already taken kind of quite a turn. I think it was just, a little bit more of it's more equitable now. But
and other businesses you tried before you got to Central? Which is noticeable, quite funny at least.
Which was quite funny.
Yeah. Well, I mean, tell me all of them. I'm genuinely interested. How many trial and error sort of businesses did you do before you got to Central, and what were they?
we looked into fragrance at a point. That a lot of the stuff was very exploratory. We didn't really go into too much detail. We were just kind of like analyzing options in the market, doing a bit of research, seeing what felt right. And
I forget myself sometimes.
How many you do? It's true though. You do that all the time, right? Like especially when you're younger, you just try a million ideas, or you do like it's almost like a 6-week business, and then you're like, okay, let's move on to the next one.
100%.
And I think that's great. Actually,
I think that the thing that links back to what you were talking about before in terms of our quirky edge was the fact that we always gravitated towards things that we enjoyed, because we always had fun at work. Even running a tutoring agency, which is probably a business you wouldn't really expect to have fun in, we made the most out of what we were doing and had a great time, enjoyed it, messed around. Yeah. And it was fun. And I think we kind of felt like there's a limit to what you could do in a tutoring industry, and that's probably why we gravitated more to a business that
but also
is focused around.
Why novelty items and greeting cards and stuff like that? Why does that really fit? I'm really.
There was no link. There's no link
because I'm really curious to understand the conclusion of why because it's obviously so different in so many ways to a tutoring company. Number one, why that market? You obviously like it creatively wise, but why greeting cards? Why novelty items?
The only link is scalability. So we were exploring all those.
Sorry, what you were saying
exactly.
Before.
So that's the only link. We were just exploring all those different ideas. Stumbled across a product in Paris that I actually got called out on LinkedIn the other day, saying, you basically copied them, but whatever.
Recently?
Yeah, recently.
Should we name them?
Should we?
No. You should do it if you want. In all honesty,
no. They actually said this sounds like IP whatever. I said
fraud or whatever it may be.
Obviously the courts decide, but it's a big topic, imitation versus inspiration, and we very much thought it was inspiration. That's how anything is developed.
You had no idea about this brand before?
No. Yeah. We saw it, and then we kind of created our own versions of it. So it's not copying.
I want to say if it's inspiration, it's Luke saw it.
Yeah, exactly. But so we made our own versions of this product that was an art piece that was selling for €15. Yeah. The components were really cheap, so we made our own version. The components were literally like 20p. And then we thought, okay, we can retail them. They're fun. It was a plastic bag with a pill inside that said things along the top, like speak French instantly. Mm-hmm. And that was the novelty item. Got them made, started selling them to shops, but no shops were buying them. And we probably ran around London speaking to not store owners, but buyers at different stores for about a year and a half, 2 years, trying.
Before you sold anything?
Before we sold anything. But we never ended up, initially we never ended up selling any of those products at all.
Well, we tentatively had an order from Urban Outfitters.
Yeah, they placed an order. We were so happy, and then we found out.
I think we went out and celebrated.
We did. we had a great time. We had a good night. And then the next morning was really rough. Because they didn't.
Because you were hungover, or because the order got cancelled?
No, it wasn't. They didn't actually. They said we were going to place an order, but they didn't send us an official.
Yeah, wasn't.
We didn't know we were receiving an official PO. Yes. This was the first time we ever did anything in wholesale or retail.
Yes, you didn't know.
So we were like an email saying we're placing an order for 2,500 units.
Like, we're rich.
Yeah. that's an order, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
So actually, it was quite a bit later that they kind of. It was probably a few months after that they actually cancelled the order.
Yeah.
And that was Urban Outfitters.
I think there was also, during that period of time, from when we started to then, there was a bit of a change in kind of popular culture and sentiment. All of the stuff was quite rude. Mm-hmm. Some of it could be, with kind of mental health. There were like pills in the packets, and the joke was you take it, it's like instant gratification.
Right.
So just for like the trend and the way things were going, they were no longer kind of seen
as appealing. Yeah.
Commercially suitable.
It's hard also selling pharmaceuticals. Obviously they're empty, but pills didn't suit the
so you won't be selling fake pills anytime soon?
We haven't.
Never say never.
Yeah, never say never. Another side hustle.
What's the big vision for Central23 in general? Like where do you want to get to, and what's the plan, I guess?
It's a hard question. It's just because there are so many different components.
It's meant to be easy.
You're right.
There you go.
That's a good interview.
I was about to say that myself, but I thought I'll just let you go. But go on,
there are many different components, and I'm sure we can both jump in. But one of the main things is creating a product that customers love, and we have focused our business around fun. So when we make a greeting card, we're not only making a greeting card, we're designing a product that someone is going to love and enjoy. And how we differentiate our products greeting card specifically is we include a sticker pack inside the greeting card so that a user or a customer can design their card.
Right.
And we include a guide as to how to write the best greeting card that's really funny. And we create an experience for them. Our confirmation emails when a customer receives them are really funny. And we've seen responses from customers like, I can't get this anywhere else.
So you're purely going for like entertainment?
It's entertainment and experiential for our customers. Obviously, the product is fantastic, but the experience, the product is part of the greater experience that we're trying to deliver to customers. Okay. And that's kind of where we're at now. Okay.
And would you add anything to that?
Yeah, I think we've learned a lot over the past few years, and we've done everything from kind of supplying multinational retailers to kind of selling directly to customers online. So we've had kind of a real range of experiences, and I think from that we want to kind of take lessons learned and see how we can again kind of scale the business, scale out that kind of entertainment and fun factor.
Okay, because I mean, you know, stationery as a whole is such an unusual thing to get into. Do you?
That was very much driven actually by Urban Outfitters.
Okay.
So when they didn't place the order,
just because you got that first order, it's a spark to keep moving forward.
Well,
the fake order.
Exactly. So when they didn't place that order, we were gutted. And at that point, we had spent so much time speaking to lots of different retailers, and Urban Outfitters was the only one that came close to placing an order. Mm-hmm. So we were pretty much pot committed in terms of like doing something with Urban Outfitters, and we invited the buyers out for lunch, I think at Soho House.
It was Soho House.
And they cancelled, and then they sent their summer interns. Their summer interns were kind of happy to talk to us about what they were working on.
Just get a free drink.
No, we were showing them our product. They were like, oh, lovely, lovely. And then that was it.
Almost just writing down notes for ideas, right?
Well, one of them ended up telling us that because they were working in the kind of home and gifts area, so we were trying to find out kind of maybe what else we could really do with them. And then she kind of spilled the beans on how many units they were selling across their best kind of greeting cards. And I think that was a surprise to her before she started working there, and then also to us to know how many greeting cards that they stocked and sold. So once we heard that, we were like, okay, great, we can use our kind of design competence that went on all this other product and just put it on greeting cards.
And it was specifically celebrity greeting cards that sold really well. So we went away and designed probably about 8 variations of celebrity pop culture greeting cards, came back, and they were like...
And this was really your first...
This was...
product
so we had about 8, we went to them and they were like, sorry, we're not actually allowed to buy that anymore.
Okay.
We're like, oh, well, that was a bit of a waste of time.
And just on that point about all the products you have out there...
We did end up selling them cards.
Yeah. Oh, you did?
Yeah, okay. so we went back,
okay.
designed some non-celebrity cards, and then came back to them with the non-celebrity ones. They're like, oh no, we can actually buy this celebrity stuff again. So we were like, cool. Okay, and then we sold off one card, 2,000, it was like 1,200 units. Marcus and I sat in our office. We ordered the cards to our office, and we folded them, put an envelope inside, and sealed them in a poly bag.
Took a very long time.
2,000 of them.
We had no idea. We didn't realize whether or not we would have to literally go around to the individual 50-odd Urban Outfitters stores and deliver each box for the store. I had no idea that they had.
Marcus was like, I don't care, I'm driving it. Yeah. I'm going to drive it. I want to see what it's like.
I didn't know that they had one distribution center that would say. I mean, now it just seems absolutely ridiculous. And yeah, as Luke said, we're packing everything, so we didn't get the factory to send the goods finished. We received every single component, and we're folding the cards, putting them in each bag, adding the labels on. It's like nuts. And we sent that to like our office in Marylebone. Okay. We had no room in the office for all the stuff.
As we progressed as well, we started sending more and more. We started selling online, and we had stock at our office. So we started sending more and more stock to our office. And
so you just had a room
being cheap, we usually find deals on offices. So we've always found deals on offices. And it's usually a deal on the 4th or 5th floor without a lift, and carrying heavy boxes up those floors meant I didn't need to go to the gym ever. Okay.
Turns out it worked out quite well. Yeah.
I prefer the word resourceful.
Resourceful.
Resourceful. Yeah. What's the structure now with Central23? Do you have? You obviously got an office in Soho, and then anything else? Like you're stocked in how many stores? Or is it
5,000 globally?
Oh really? I think I did actually know that.
Your research.
Yeah, that was on my research.
Then we can cut that bit out.
Yeah,
if you do it, you can dub it. 5,000 stores, guys. It's very impressive. I read that online.
Exactly. Let's do that for sure. 5,000 stores. The other point about that is, and you're online Amazon as well, right?
Yeah, online on our own website and on Amazon.
And you don't have any interest in Tavistock anymore at all?
No interest whatsoever.
Why did you sell?
We had an amazing business in Central23, and we very much wanted to devote our time to it.
That was growing at like 400% pre-COVID.
Really?
Yeah, and actually, we were always planning on growing the business and hiring people. We've now obviously decided to hire people during lockdown, which a lot of other businesses, well, a few were, but many weren't. We didn't furlough anyone, and I think we did that because that was always the plan. We want to grow this business. We've seen the opportunity at the small scale at which we were running it, and now we want to continue that momentum and take it to another level that we kind of probably have. Well, we definitely wouldn't have experienced before.
And I'm assuming maybe educational companies in general are not what you want to do forever. Whereas this,
that was definitely part of it.
Potentially, this could be.
I don't know. Part of it for me.
Yeah, I think it's hard to run something passively. So that's what 100%. Happened in the kind of the year running up to selling Tavistock tutors. We had a fantastic business with a great team, with a really good kind of track record over a long period of time. So for the company that bought us, they could see that kind of steady, like natural, organic growth. But they were another operator, so they had 3 other businesses basically in the same space, and they were 3 business partners, or maybe even 4, I think. Yeah, 4. And they were giving it their absolute full attention, so they would be able to run it better than we were, and it made complete sense to us.
Definitely better opportunities for the team as well there, just because there's actually growth potential.
You felt you hit a ceiling with where you were.
It's so much a ceiling, it's just that you kind of hit a ceiling naturally because you're not focusing on it. There was definitely listen, if there wasn't opportunity to grow it, no one would have wanted to buy it. So there's obviously opportunity there to grow it. We just didn't have.
We weren't dedicating the time to grow.
It was opportunity.
You've done 10 years, that sort of thing.
It was more. There's opportunity in Central23, and there's opportunity in Tavistock tutors, and the opportunity in Central23 far outweighs the opportunity.
I think we also enjoyed it more.
Tutors. Yeah, we 100%. Yeah, listen, as you said, we're able to kind of try anything, and that's a lot of
that freedom you've had and still have as a result is great, isn't it?
100%. And we've Central23, as it's grown, has been a kind of testing ground for loads of different things, loads of different product types, what we want to be as a brand, how fun we want it to be, how rude we want it to be, all of those things. And it's a learning experience, analysing what customers' desires are through instant feedback on social media and email, all of that sort of stuff, which is really, really fun.
Okay.
We also have a much bigger impact at Central23. With Tavistock tutors, as we said, we had more than 1,000 tutors.
More than 1,000 plus.
Yeah, 1,000 plus. But there's a limit to how many people we could tutor in central London.
Sure.
With Central23,
we're selling 1,000 products a day online.
It's crazy.
That's an amazing. So you're touching 1,000 different people.
And with one small tweak to the product, you make 1,000 people's days. Yeah. And we see that live feedback on Instagram.
The feedback must be great to see. It must be so satisfying.
It's so rewarding, really. and it rewards the whole team because everyone knows they're doing the right thing. We're moving in the right direction, and we're constantly improving that process.
It's amazing how customers, when you touch a customer, how kind of engaged they'll be. Sending emails, we've received letters to our office.
Or just almost thanking you for.
We received brownies.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, it's honestly unbelievable. Like the Instagram messages we get, the reviews.
So you're finding, as you do more, you're getting more of a passion for it. It's not subsiding, the passion at all. It's growing all the time.
100%
on a personal level.
Yeah, on a personal level for sure. And also that
pre-COVID, we had people show up at our office.
Yeah, really? We used to do crazy. Pre-COVID, we used to do crazy stuff with customers because we set our office address. We set our office address as a shop on Google.
I was thinking of changing it to Luke's home address.
Good idea. Did you do it for like a day? See what happened?
I'm glad.
Luke's in control of that account. Unfortunately, he could only do it.
That would have been a good prank. Could have called that some sort of marketing ploy, PR stunt. Tracking back to Tavistock, and I think because especially you guys are even now young entrepreneurs, the whole selling a company process, I think people would be really interested to hear more about that. Could you maybe start just with what was the approach as far as when they came to you, what happened, and then how long was the process, and maybe a bit about, did you actually think it wasn't going to happen at one point, that sort of thing?
Yeah, a few years before we sold the business, we had interest from one specific company, and we weren't ready to sell.
Not being the one that
not the one that bought us. And we were considering selling it at the time, but we weren't quite ready. I think it was also very much in the early stages of Central23. So Tavistock Tutors was the main thing we were doing, and it just didn't feel right at the time. It was actually a very good offer. So
should have taken it? No.
Shouldn't. Well, we got a great offer when we sold the business, but if
you think at the stage of the business it was at the time,
it was a very good offer for the stage of the business it was at. And then when we had that interest, Luke and I thought the natural thing to do would be to speak to competitors to find out if, somebody else would make a higher offer.
Did you, by the way, just sorry to interject there, but did you even think about selling it before that happened? Were you at a stage in your mind where you thought, we do really want to come to an end here and we want to sell, or that was the first time you'd even contemplated it?
I think that was around when it became maybe a serious thought.
Yeah, it was never like, oh, we're done here, let's sell it. It was more like, well, this could be interesting, let's explore it. Sure. Like that.
Yeah, so then we spoke to a load of competitors, and a few of them we stayed in touch with, kind of the past couple of years. And it was one of the ones that we stayed in touch with.
We actually worked with them as well, so we shared tutors and clients.
Okay, fine.
A little bit of stuff together.
So yeah, I think having had that initial offer and them having seen that interest and then staying in touch with us kind of over a few years kind of allowed them to, I guess, kind of helped kind of grow them, kind of foster that interest.
Yeah, also legitimized our relationship. They were very confident in us as people, I think.
And how long was that process from the moment they actually came to you to
long time
to selling? Really?
Yeah. So we were speaking to them casually about it for a couple of years, even. No?
Yeah.
And then it became serious towards the end of last year. Was it November? Around then, no?
Yeah, probably would have been around November.
And then before...
You really struck
I actually can't even remember.
No, I didn't.
Wait, no, I think it was a bit longer than that, wasn't it?
Maybe we signed an NDA with them in November.
Yeah.
And then at some point we kind of tentatively agreed a price with them, signed an NDA where... Because we had other interests, because once we knew they were interested and it was getting serious, we wanted to see our options.
Yeah.
Because if somebody was going to come along and say, we're going to offer 2 times what they're offering, then, it's important for us to kind of know what the market dictates the price, really. So you only really know that by putting it out to the market.
Actually, someone offered us slightly more as well when we were going through this process, but it was a real weird person.
Actually, 2 people offered us more.
Yeah, 2 people offered us more, but one person was super weird. Like, the weirdest.
Maybe we didn't say too much.
Yeah, I was going to say, can you imagine this person watching that? Am I
to
weird?
be fair, I think, well, now that person knows they're weird. No, so but also we weren't thinking about it solely from a financial perspective. Obviously, that was the most important element to it, but there were other elements involved.
You want it to carry on and actually do something.
Continue.
Right.
Will our team be happy there?
Yeah.
And we
also
we
the transition, the likelihood of it definitely going through. Because once you're
100%.
going into the negotiation, if you're going to spend a few months negotiating,
you
find
want
your details,
buyer, right?
you want to know that at the end of that, the transaction's actually going to take place. Mm-hmm. So I think the likelihood of it going through with the company that bought us, we were very confident in that, and their ability to take it on, do a good job with it. So it's a combination of things. Also, because we had the other business, Luke and I didn't want to stay on, and a lot of people who want to buy your company want the kind of owners or directors to stay on for a period of time. Yeah.
And you don't have to do any of that with your deal.
We had a week handover, which is kind of very rare. Okay. So often, other companies we spoke to, they had the founders or CEO directors maybe had to stay on for 6 months, a year, maybe longer. And also there was no because they would be running the business from when we left. If there was no, basically it was kind of a deal all done in one go.
So what they're just really trying to expand their roster, and that's why they took you on. So to some extent, they're not even. Do they even use Tavistock individually, or are they just putting it under their bigger?
I think they're still using it as a separate brand now. They might plan to change that, but I think the idea was to build up a much bigger tutoring agency that can kind of consolidate quite a few of the bigger brands in London. And it seems to be working well for them, which is cool. We did also speak to a few business brokers as well, but those were the instances where we'd probably sell to a non-operator, and it didn't really work out for us.
Okay. On the education front, you guys have been so immersed in it for so long. I did wonder, when you started Tavistock to now, the transformation of online education is obviously dramatic, especially in the past 5 years in particular. What's been so different from when you started until when you sold with regards to the way people learn, and sort of the practical elements involved in that?
You know, it's funny. So a lot of people ask kind of those broad education kind of related questions. I think just because of what we did was so, it's geographic specific and also kind of socio-economic. Like it's one kind of target kind of catchment. So people that can afford to pay £60 roughly on average per hour that live in London. So I don't think we had a big enough like data set to really see, you know, kind of, I guess, massive trends.
But surely just
there was definitely
the online factor must have been there.
I think there was a
in the
sentiment
past 2-3
change
years.
from customers being willing to do online. When it came towards the end of everything that we were doing, we weren't handling day-to-day requests. So it was very much the two people in the business, Simon and Rosie, who were dealing with those requests. And I think based on general feedback, there was definitely a big sentiment change from people who would be like, online? No, my kid can't learn online, to online, yeah, let's try
Obviously now especially, but
now there's a forced change.
Yeah. And that's what you sort of agree with that in general?
Well, yeah, we only know about now just from kind of speaking to other people, because we have no involvement in the business. But as Luke said, there was that kind of gradual change where people became more accepting of online. I think that all the obvious things were changes that, you know, we became aware of. So like anything you would kind of assume kind of people became more comfortable with. So like using whiteboard or interactive board online, you know, if it's kind of trends that are taking place in kind of other industries or just in general that people became comfortable with rather than specifically education. So it was still a very kind of old school type business. Most of the work was done face to face. So yeah, we weren't kind of at the forefront of kind of ed tech and kind of making big changes.
But you just saw the obvious trends. You saw them. I must say, especially even with Central23 and Tavistock, you're clearly, which kind of aligns with some of your quirky marketing ideas, you clearly are very concerned with differentiating yourself. I read that you guys really were concerned, particularly with Tavistock, in the concept of teaching within a set of someone's interests. Is that right? And that really, really interests me in general, because even what we're doing with the podcast, it's about trying to, you know, spark people's curiosity and create interest. Why did you feel that was so important? Was that just a personal feeling from your experience in education?
Yeah, by the way, I think Luke and I have also just happened to have always gone into incredibly competitive areas. Unfortunately, we've never found such a niche that like no one else is doing it. Maybe like little ones within our business, but not as the business, you know, the business as a whole. So we've had to kind of try and differentiate and stand out. In the case of Tavistock Tutors, we did that in many ways. And really, it's just kind of a price to kind of quality. So we want the value of what we're delivering to be better than what somebody else is. So we often looked around at what kind of the more expensive agencies were offering and just made sure we were doing all the things that they were at a better price.
We also implemented our own, but that was one of the things we definitely implemented ourselves, which I don't think many
that
other people were doing.
Like it was an ethic. You really tried to push, shape the lessons around the actual interest of the person.
It was also feedback from customers, and so I think we heard once that there was a tutor went round to the student's house and they both liked the same football team, and the parent called us and was like, God, your tutor is amazing, got on so well with my son. And then we started taking interest down when the calls came through, so that we would then note down the interest, share that with the tutor before they went, so that you can build up a rapport as soon as you arrive. Because I think, obviously, during a first session, it's about building up that rapport with a student to make sure you're on the same level and to make sure that you can engage and enthuse them in that subject. I think that was one of those elements that we differentiated, or how we differentiated ourselves in comparison to other agencies.
Just to be clear, it's not the tutor's interest. I remember quite early on when we first started trialing that, we called up a tutor and said, like, this is the student like Manchester United. And we sent the tutor to the house, and after we got feedback from both the parents and the tutor, the parents were like, it's amazing, like my son, like, really kind of, hit home and, landed, and like he understood everything for the first time. Then we spoke to the tutor. He was like, I absolutely hate football. But knowing that
his way of teaching,
knowing that he liked it,
and
it was a mathematics tutor, he literally just explained everything in the context that the student would, basically be interested in it.
And also, another interesting point on that is a lot of our top tutors and the most successful tutors were actors. I think it's because teaching is a performance, and they could perform, and that's another way. It's another element of performance, understanding what someone's passions are, so you can make the subject alive and get them engaged and enthused, because that's what's so important. It's not the 1 hour that they're there; it's the 1 hour that they're there that then encourages them to study.
What sticks with the student?
What sticks with the student, and are they then going to spend 5 hours studying for the next lesson? Only if they care about the subject, and the tutor is the person who's going to share that.
So that then became quite a priority when you were choosing tutors and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, one of the priorities over like.
And what were the sort of fundamentals on the tutoring side? Like, what were you picking? Obviously, they had to be good at teaching, but were there particular, maybe slightly more unusual variables that you considered towards a tutor that you think made a difference?
When I was interviewing, it was very early on, because then we handed over to the team
Is
that
this,
was working for us.
is this the back-to-back Costa days?
That was so
minutes?
fun. That was really fun.
Yeah, I bet.
They were fun days.
He's reminiscing. Reminiscing. Costa was great.
Costa sucks so much though. Yeah,
we never spent any money on these places either.
Yeah, so we're saying Costa sucks. They're like, they were the worst customers ever. Yeah. They just came and used our seats.
Yeah, we brought 15 customers to them. It should be great. We should have been paid a commission. We're promoting them. So
let's not talk about promotion. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
We at least when I was doing it, or even at the time when Luke was still in school, it was literally like, are they entertaining me? Like, I'm dyslexic. Like, am I falling asleep in 15 minutes? Because if I am, that's a big problem.
Yeah.
So it was just like their engagement, their enthusiasm. That was really what kind of.
And anything else apart from that?
Yeah, I mean, then it's like experience, qualifications, DBS checks, so background checks. The parents were very keen on. Although I didn't really understand it, you could have a background check and then do weird stuff, and then it won't be on your background check because you already got it done.
Yeah,
so
but if you're
historically,
if you're in your 30s and you've never had anything historically, then you're
a lot of our tutors were quite young as well, so it didn't make so much sense for them. But anyway, so qualifications were definitely important, but experience also was so useful. That was definitely a big sign to see how successful someone could be. And we did take on people initially who didn't have much experience, but.
Well, I was going to say, weren't like uni students a really big access point for you?
Well, in terms of tutors,
I think it's more like graduate, students doing masters or further education rather than someone who's in their first year of university.
Sure. And university students also pick up tutoring experience as they study at university. Experience was a key differentiator between success and non-success. We did take on people who didn't have experience who were very good, but the people with experience were usually. They understood how it works and understood how to take care of the lessons, make sure the student was happy, make sure the parents were happy, make sure the student's actually learning and progressing, all of those important elements.
I think by the time somebody actually came in and sat with us, we already knew all of that.
Yeah.
So at that point, it was just like engagement, enthusiasm, because we knew what their qualifications were. We knew how much tutoring experience they had. We got references from them.
And just out of interest, sort of a parallel to that, do you apply some of those principles when you're employing people? Less about the CV, more about the engagement factor of the person. And because I remember checking something on your LinkedIn about how you're really trying to change the way people work. Is that right? So just talk to us a bit about internally your sort of philosophies there.
I've definitely asked some weird questions in interviews. I just like.
Funny enough, a friend of mine, there's another episode where he talks about some really odd stuff. He's like, "Do you have a girlfriend?"
Okay, I'm not that intense.
Weird, but totally appropriate.
Yeah, appropriate.
Yeah.
No, I
to give some examples just for context.
I like.
Now you sound a bit creepy.
I'm very invasive. What do you do at night?
No, it's. I like. People come into an interview and you can see they're very straight.
You just want to put them at ease so you can understand.
So like, I'll ask them like, what's the craziest thing you've done on a holiday, for example, or what's your favorite song, or where'd you go on the weekends? Because then they start laughing or like giggling to themselves a bit because it's not a usual thing that you'd ask in an interview. But you learn so much more about a person rather than hearing their bullshit.
Yeah, you want that human element.
You want the human element to understand who
you're
they
going to get to know
really
that in
are.
the end anyway. And you want them to sort of bring that out in the way they work, right?
100%. And
yeah, sorry,
no. I think it's a really important element when meeting people
and
changing the dynamic.
Just on the dynamic in general and the internal aspect. Having business partners, obviously, it's great. Is there any advice you'd give to people who about managing that relationship? Because obviously, you guys get along incredibly well, but I'm sure there is tentative moments. Is there anything that stands out with regards to how you really keep a good business relationship going? Your friends anyway, which helps.
Yeah.
But managing both sides, do are you quite specific about certain aspects of roles and responsibilities or whatever it may be?
Have been, haven't been. Like it's changed over time. I think as we've got older and more experience, we've learned. Well, we naturally drifted to certain areas, but I think we've learned to kind of cover certain areas. But it's less so about our relationship and more so about getting more done. Because there were times when we were both doing the same thing, and it was kind of like, wait, hold on, there's two of us. We can do so much more if we split up. Obviously, not split up completely, but if we focus on different areas and then report back to each other as to what's going on. And that's kind of where we're at now. I think trust is super important.
Yeah, huge. Yeah. Would you sort of agree with those aspects?
Blind trust, actually.
Really?
Seriously, yeah.
Why do you say that? Just because like, so it's the loyalty element, because then you don't have to worry about anything external apart from what you're thinking.
Well, yeah. Also, but like, if like I were to go away for 5 months, I would like be so fine leaving the business.
Did you go away for 5 months?
Even to tell everyone.
Bet you love that.
He hates it. He hates it. No, I'm joking. You know what I mean? It's that idea of you're so confident in the person that you don't need to check over them.
He doesn't realise if he goes away for 5 months, he's coming back to no business.
Yeah.
No, it's like, Marcus, what are all these expenses? It's like you're away for 5 months.
No, that's it. Also, like that sort of stuff. And actually, maybe someone was telling us both about that.
It's like Mike and I went out.
Sorry, Luke. Yeah, after the podcast, it got real. It got real. We started a new business.
Someone definitely mentioned
to Vegas,
to maybe both of us, that that they were worried maybe about their business partners spending or something like that, and those sorts of things, and like that sort of stuff would never even cross my mind, and I think it's the same way.
Yeah, so off the cuff, I just had an immense amount of trust with Luke. So all the big and important things, like Luke said, like money coming in and out of the bank account, I feel like I could transfer Luke all the money I have in the world, and I'd come back to him a year later and he would tell me to the penny how much interest it's made sitting in his account.
No, but I am with you on that. So, but I do get that.
I think something that took me maybe a bit longer was trust in like the work getting done. Because when you're doing something yourself, you're doing it the way you want to do it. But it's not just with Luke, it's with anyone, is that you're just like relaxed that someone's going to do something differently to you and it's still going to be done really, really well. So that took time for me kind of across.
Letting go of certain elements of the work.
Yeah, when you're a small business and you're both working on the same area.
And you're doing everything at one point, right?
So, we're doing exactly.
You're talking that element of when you start to employ people or spread the responsibility. That's sort of the element you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm probably a little bit controlling. So.
In all seriousness, when you started to employ people, did you really struggle to let go of elements of responsibility? Was that quite tricky?
Strange. It's like Luke and I went from starting the business and sharing an email address, so like an info@email address, to having our own ones. We're now getting separate emails, so you're now not informed about everything that's going on. And as you start to like form departments, which we have now, then there's so much on the day to day, hour by hour, that I don't know what's happening all the time. Obviously, at a higher level, I do. It takes time to kind of
to let it go and just say you have to. If you're employing someone and you've decided they're good for your business, just you have to leave it at that and trust it.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's. I was thinking about the trust element's huge between you, obviously, but it's interesting how obviously you have to learn how to relay that down throughout the workforce. I was thinking about. I
think it's respect. Like we debate a lot. Yeah. And we have very strong opinions, and sometimes they differ.
Often different viewpoints. Yeah.
So exactly, but different viewpoints in a good way, because if we had the same viewpoints, I think it would probably the relationship would suck a bit, because it would mean that
we'd be challenging each other.
We would be driving down the same road, and we have the greater mission is the same, which is so important, because I think if you differ completely,
the common goal is
if you're on polar opposite ends of the spectrum, you're not going to be able to work together. We're probably here with I mean, sometimes we're here with decisions, but we might be here on some decisions, which means we're driving in the same direction, but we'll discuss which way is the best way to get there. Yeah. And I think that's the debate.
How can I pull Luke over to my side?
And it's how I can pull him. Sometimes in the office we're like, come on then. Not here.
Not there. I was thinking about when you first started, you were so young. Obviously, there's fundamentals about running a business with regards to organisation and stuff like that. Was that a real learning curve, the basics of what I call the back of house, having a proper calendar, learning like intense organisation? Was that a real tricky process in the early days? Do you remember thinking of instances where at one point you barely even had a Google calendar or whatever it may be? Because teenagers, you're not organised. It's just a fact.
I think it's gradual progression.
It is. It's complete gradual progression.
We started on with Tavistock tutors. We started on Excel spreadsheets, and it was okay when there were kind of 50 entries, but then when there were like 1,000, it became very difficult. And then Luke decided to color code them, which was like a novel invention for us.
It's funny. It's even like the way we.
It is simple things like that. There's small, tiny meticulous things that make such a difference.
Yeah, and then you add a new column that changes it. But then you get to a stage where you're like, oh shit, there's way too much stuff here. We need to do something else. Then you go out and look for systems, and you build out your organization, understanding, speaking to a lot of people, other people who are doing the same things, getting a lot of advice. But Google is by far the best resource in the world. And you could literally
or YouTube. You can learn a lot.
Or YouTube. Yeah. Sorry, yeah. Why this is on YouTube, right?
It will be.
Shout out to YouTube.
Yeah, learn kids. Sorry,
there's so much that you can learn, and it is tiny changes that can have a big impact.
But did you in your early days, was that one of the first priorities when you're employing people is find someone who can sort of manage logistics operations so you can focus on your strengths?
I think we were doing everything. Yeah, I think it was finding someone who could manage the operations because there was too much operations for us.
Yeah.
So
it wasn't necessarily that you can do it. It's so vast now. You've got it.
We needed to add. Let's say we were doing it. We needed to add a third person in to help us do it, and that was the first stage in growth. And then what we did, rather than adding, we probably would have needed, I don't know, let's say 4 more people to keep up with the growth levels that we had. We invested quite a bit of money in systems instead that just improve the speed at which we could assign tutors to jobs. Organized jobs. It had automated follow-ups built into it, and that saved us a lot of that time. So we didn't need to invest so heavily on employees in that area.
Do you miss Tavistock at all? And what I mean by that is obviously you'll miss it a bit, but did it really feel like it was the right time in every aspect?
It's funny because so much as we hadn't been back in the office with everyone, because both companies are in the same office, and we haven't been back with everyone in that office since we sold the business because of coronavirus. So we literally sold the business just before Corona. If we were a few weeks off, then the deal maybe would not have gone through, just because the whole world went into turmoil. So it was a couple of weeks before lockdown.
Good timing, I was going to say. Yeah.
So very, very good timing. So yeah, it's hard to say. I think it's more kind of the team.
The team aspect.
Our first ever employee had been with us. That it was a Tavistock Tutors employee, and she'd been with us
day one.
Is that the one who you found on Gumtree?
The one, uploaded her CV to Gumtree. So it's more maybe the people rather than we weren't. There's not because we weren't working on the business for kind of a year or so running up to it, and I hadn't been working. Luke was overseeing Tavistock Tutors more when we just started Central23, so I hadn't been involved in Tavistock Tutors really for a few years. So it was because it was kind of gradual that kind of stepping back gradually. It wasn't like a shock to the system.
We're also seeing them on Thursday night next week, I think, or Wednesday night.
Oh really?
Yeah, we're still.
You're still involved. You have an ear to the business.
Not so much to the business. It's just more on
just the people involved.
Level.
Yeah. Okay. So Central23 is very much a business that you have a big vision, and you're sort of doing. You understand the bigger vision, and now you're sort of doing a bottom-up approach. Tavistock wasn't like that, I guess, because it was more, especially in the early days, you just play it by ear. Considering those two elements, executing just a business plan, let's say, do you find, what I would say is the advice, what advice could you give people on executing, say, the smaller goals? And is that the way it worked for you? You start to find out that create lots of smaller goals to a bigger picture. Is that what happened, or?
My advice to anyone, if they're starting something young, would just be because Luke and I didn't have that experience where we came out of a corporate and we had some, kind of a specific skill set that was going to really help us when we're starting something. So you'll find that a lot of consultants end up starting businesses because they've been in and out of a lot of companies, seen how they work. So I think the main thing, if someone doesn't have that past experience, is going out and getting as much advice on as many different things as possible. So if you're employing people for the first time, go and speak to people that had done that before. Ideally, people from kind of the biggest companies you can speak to, kind of all the way through to kind of another startup who's just 6-7 months ahead of you. So I think it was a while, maybe it was kind of probably only really when we finished university that we actually went out and started to seek advice.
Yeah, it was.
So we were kind of running this business for 4 odd years without really getting advice from people, and it's crazy to sometimes think that if we had started getting
that's
advice,
a hell of a long time, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
And you were quite a substantial business at that point as well.
I mean, it wasn't. It was nice size. It wasn't substantial.
You wouldn't call it substantial even 4 years in?
It was nice. It was nice.
we had enough money.
You're playing that down. I mean,
We had enough money to pay for an office.
We got an office as we came out.
And to pay ourselves.
And to hire someone.
And to hire someone and to pay ourselves, like, kind of a starting salary.
Sure.
Which was quite mediocre.
Yeah.
I
think it depends who you're asking. We wanna do very well in life, and so it's probably subpar for us.
No, it's perception. Yeah,
I think for how much work that went into it, what Luke said, it was like a kind of a nice foundation rather than like kind of a massive company per se. But also the market's quite small and niche, so for our market, we were in a very good position.
Cool.
Had good brand value.
Cool. Anything to add on that point?
Yeah. I think you mentioned small goals to big goals. I think is
that quite efficient for you, or are you quite meticulous day to day in short term goals?
We have a load of medium term goals that we've never reached because we've changed course, and I think that happens a lot in new businesses. So, like setting a 5-year plan, and this is where I want to be in 5 years, is great. But as long as you're not super attached to it, because things change, or if you have an understanding of where you want to go, setting those short-term goals is really important. But we've changed path so much. Our mission is still the same, but you need to be adaptable. And I think setting something in stone is often hard because it means you don't have that opportunity to adapt.
I guess don't be a perfectionist, right? Like I think a lot of people get obsessed with that. Like I have to be so perfect to start, but that's just not really the way business works. It's all trial and error, at least in my opinion. Did you think failure and trial and error was a big thing for you guys?
Right now, it's probably the biggest thing. It's
in Central in particular, because you're trying so many products.
Test everything. We've tried to set up a test in every role that we do, and then within the role, smaller tests. We were just talking about Amazon today. We're testing so much on that platform. On social media, we're testing loads of things to see what gets the best response. It's about understanding the customer and then changing course based on the feedback that we receive. Because it's also the element of ever improving. And I feel like we could very easily say, all right, that's good enough, that's done. But ultimately, we want to be like, that's version 1 or that's version 2. Let's get to version 100, because version 100 is going to be better than version 1 or 2, especially after all this amazing feedback that we're getting from customers. And I really think that's how we're going to be able to continuously improve and achieve greater success.
So often the source idea is not what ends up being the product.
Well, I mean, often the source idea probably would become the product, but then we would take feedback from an initial release to try and improve that product. And also, when I say product, I mean everything. So talking about tweaking emails to see which one the customer best responds to. It's all about understanding what creates more fun for the customer. Because whatever creates the most fun for the customer is what's going to do best for us as a business.
Yeah, your attention to detail in general, from what I can understand, is amazing. It makes a big difference, and you can see it in your products now.
When Luke mentioned kind of like changing course, just to kind of give you a short snapshot. So we started with greeting cards, and Urban Outfitters was our first customer. And then from there we went into kind of notebooks, other kind of complementary products that they were buying within their homewares team. But then from there went even further, and they wanted mugs, water bottles, they wanted bedding. So we were kind of going into all these like products that we basically were driven by Urban Outfitters. And the change of course came when we said to each other, we're pretty much doing everything for one retailer. But when they cancel orders or their buyer changes, which happens frequently, then we're basically 100% kind of committed to that one retailer. And it doesn't really give us any kind of diversification. So then we kind of changed course and said, let's focus on our few core products where we're doing really well and we're paying a better price because our volume's really high and we found the best manufacturers, and we're adding in all these like great kind of touch points that we'd built over kind of a year or so. So like the add-ons and the inserts.
That was definitely an element there where we were just going into random products, trying them and seeing how they went, but we weren't focusing on the finer details, which is kind of what we wanted to do.
I think it's when we went to China, we arrived at the Canton Fair, and I literally thought for the first time in my life I'd seen business. It's just like 3 weeks of everything you can imagine being manufactured, and huge.
This was very early on in
like a year in, maybe.
Okay, so
year in. Yeah, maybe
quite recent.
Yeah.
And I was like, we can make all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Like everything. We were looking into socks.
I have your card. It
was literally unbelievable.
Okay, so at one stage you thought you were going to sell socks?
We made them.
You did?
We made them.
You don't now?
No, we don't now. But again, that's that refinement back to...
Luke is such an amazing ambassador that he used to go out wearing the pink socks for us.
I would have loved a pair actually.
I said you go. I think it said you go girl on the side.
Yeah, I rolled up my jeans.
That's very you.
Thank you. But no, it's that refinement and kind of realignment what we're trying to achieve, which is creating fun for the customer through experience, through product, and our product wasn't delivering it as much as it could, and so we went back and improved the core products we were working on amongst all of the other reasons Marcus mentioned.
Do you guys have very different roles in Central, or and obviously there's a collaborative nature, but I know some business partners, they really, really stay in their lane, stay in each other's lane and don't cross over. Are you it sounds to me you're quite the opposite of that. If anything, like you said, you've got that big middle ground. There's a touch on the either side that you sort of do yourself, but
no, we definitely have our areas, but there is a lot of collaboration as well. It's probably not a touch on either side. I would say it's probably about 50-50.
Okay.
As we've grown, it's become more defined.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I always wonder this. Could you, like, what do you think his best skill is, just out of interest?
Yeah, what is my best skill?
Yeah.
Probably.
No, it's interesting to know, because just on the business partner sort of situation in general, I think it's the business partner normally identifies the skill better.
Yeah, probably selling.
Okay. Would you agree?
Yeah, it's hard to say. Maybe one of them.
It's hard to. One of many, and one of many.
I didn't say many.
Modest.
I didn't say many.
I can basically do everything. And what about Luke?
I think action, just like the speed. So that's across the board, really. But like,
I was going to say something.
I was thinking, action man.
No, I just think like it's a lot of people procrastinate, or they come up with an idea and
so he's an executor.
He executes and he's quick about it. Yeah. So he likes to learn fast and move on quickly. But also there's several things. Probably how we've split our roles at the moment.
One.
Operationally, I think he's very good at like creating like a structure for kind of people to work with.
Sure.
And through. So yeah, I think we've kind of naturally. So Luke said sales, but I've taken over the sales, so it also kind of makes sense. And Luke kind of oversees more kind of like our kind of back end systems and things operationally, and like the tech side of what we're doing.
And would you say when you guys first started, or maybe not first, but after a few years, it was completely different roles now? You've evolved so much that what you expected to do and what you do now is two different things.
I feel like they're relatively similar.
Yeah.
Like there's a convergence between what we're trying to achieve, because there's like we've got sales, we have online sales, we have offline sales, we have product, we have account management, we have accounting, and then we have brand. And I think brand is what brings everything together, because it sits at the top of all of those things, and that's probably where we collaborate most. It's making sure that everything is refined and defined well, and especially as we increase our product spectrum and move into new adjacent areas, I think that's where brand is super important.
Any business idols? Anyone who really stands out, you really admire their story, or just in general respect what they're doing?
Maybe idols that I wouldn't necessarily want to be.
Okay, go on and elaborate on that.
Like Elon Musk is like definitely an amazing person, but I'm not sure I'd want to live that kind of lifestyle.
In what sense?
I mean, it's just 100% work.
Yeah, but no work-life balance, basically.
Yeah, I mean, we also 100% work. We're always thinking about it. If we're ever out somewhere socially together, like people will come up to us and joke around and say like, relax. We've had plenty of times where we're doing kind of 100-hour work weeks. When you're doing something, Elon Musk is just like another level. So it's like he doesn't even sleep at home sometimes.
You appreciate his work rate, but you wouldn't want to be that person.
Yeah, I appreciate what he does, but also I just couldn't be.
You wouldn't want to be. And you, any standouts?
I don't know, like the classic. I just hate so bullshitty. Steve Jobs. Like it's just like there are quite a few. There's a reason why you say. There are quite a few of the cliche ones who I've read about, who I've followed, who I've watched their YouTube videos, and the stuff that they've done is incredible. But probably even more cliche is my dad was a strong early role model for me in terms of how hard to work and how important it is. Like, we would go away on holiday and he'd be on the phone the whole time. And I think it's where a lot of my early...
That's a good one, I'm using that.
Yeah. No, a lot of my early foundation...
It's a more real life idol, you know?
No, but I don't have anyone real life who's not spectacular in terms of other than like a family member. So I don't have... But it was like that grounding that you get, I think, was so important for me, because it kind of showed that it doesn't matter who you are, you still have to put in the work and put in the effort. Yeah.
I think that's a great answer, actually. And then... This is a slightly cliche question, but it's always interesting to hear. Any particular books you'd recommend people to read in an aspiring terms, entrepreneurship-wise, or just books in general you really thought helped you personally?
I always liked Grinding It Out by Ray Kroc. He's the founder of McDonald's. They actually made a not such great movie about him called The Founder.
Yeah.
I like the actor. What was it again?
Well, they made it.
I can't remember.
They made it look out like he sort of stole it, right? Is that?
Well, the book's the book's written about him, so it's obviously, it's going to probably be biased in the other direction.
Yeah.
What I liked most about it was he was in his 50s when he kind of bought took over that franchise from McDonald's and kind of grew it to what it was. So just to see someone who had, an incredible sales ability, was kind of very skilled, really driven, worked really hard, but he never really made it until his 50s. And I like that kind of, because these days when you...
What's the perseverance, isn't it? It's the fact that he didn't give up even in his 50s, yeah.
Yeah, and when you're reading about things these days, it's always kind of that young kind of person who kind of hasn't left university or dropped out of school, who started something that's then become £1 billion company overnight. And I think in most instances, that's not the kind of reality. There's far more people who have kind of worked very long and hard at something to be successful. And yeah, as you said, it's nice that someone could be in.
He still did it no matter what.
Towards the end of his life,
and you?
I really enjoyed Start With Why by Simon Sinek.
Yeah, I'm a massive fan of that. Yeah.
Loved it. It actually
the purposeful aspect is huge, and understanding
huge,
that is
unbelievable. And also recently, the Pixar book Creativity Inc. was really good.
Why?
Just the story, how he came to manage a team of, I can't even remember.
Who's he?
People. He's the CEO.
Who is he?
He was the CEO of Pixar.
Yeah.
I think till recently, he stepped down last year maybe.
From Steve Jobs.
No. Steve Jobs. It mentioned Steve Jobs in the book as well, and they reference him as a douchebag early on, but he grew a compassionate side as he got older, and he got more experience and understood how to manipulate people better. Kind of, how to work with people and engage people.
Get the best out of them.
Get the best out of them.
Yeah.
But that was amazing. It talks about how he kind of landed on Pixar and how he developed a team and how he developed the creativity and his kind of rules for their business and their growth. And it was very interesting from a creative perspective, trying to emulate a creative business.
Cool. Read those books, kids. Stop looking to the camera.
I'm looking at you. Okay, sorry. All right, one more time. That'll be good. That'll be good.
Anyway, guys, in all seriousness, thank you very much for being here. It's great. Episode 4 of Entrepreneurs Experience. Really, really good fun.
Thank you for having us.
Very interesting story. Very clever people. And it was awesome. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.